what is a successful leader for you, Marco?
I will define it in a simple one-liner of some sort. A leader is somebody who creates better versions of himself. You know that you're a leader, go and multiply. You are the multiplier of values. You are the multiplier of culture, of credibility, of things that you would like to be seen always in an office, in an organization, in a community. So for you to be called a leader, you should be able not only, to tell where to go, what to do and all that, but you should be able to produce more of you, but not just more of you, but those better than you.
Hello, everyone, and good day. My name is Rich Cruz, and welcome to Season 20, Episode 7 of The Leader's Edge. Recognized as one of 2024 Top 100 Filipino on LinkedIn, our guest is a global technical support director at the OpenText. With more than 18 years of experience in support leadership, he driven transformation across enterprise and SaaS, or software as a service. Everyone, let's welcome Mr. Marco Vistan. Hi, Marco.
Hi, Rich. Thank you for a generous introduction of myself. And I'm happy to be here. And as a quick introduction of myself, as you have mentioned, I have been in the IT BPM industry for almost 2 decades now. I've started from the front line sometime in 2005. But, just before I get to the entire journey, I'd like to share that I'm a teacher by profession.
Oh,
I have a degree in secondary education, major in computer education. I taught for a couple of semesters in a community computer college back in Malolos. And then after a year, I transferred to the then booming BPO industry, spent 11 years of my foundation in the BPO industry, and then crossed over to the more technical aspect of technical support, still on the customer support space. And since 2018, I am here at OpenText, as you have mentioned. And here, what I'm doing is I am leading and getting involved with everything about customer support management of our product suite that you know just transcends from SaaS, as you have mentioned, AI, we have that, and to web cybersecurity. So in all of those years, I've learned a lot, and that's why I'm happy to be sharing, something kahit maliit that I can share to our audience. Thank you again for having me.
and we're excited to hear all your stories, your career, and how you reach your success at this point. But anyway, in this episode, we'll be talking about leading in the middle, culture, credibility, and courage. So to kick things off, probably let's start with a definition. How would you define a leader, a successful leader, based on your experience and how you look at it? What is a successful leader for you, Marco?
I will define it in a simple one-liner of some sort. A leader is somebody who creates better versions of himself. You know that you're a leader, go and multiply. You are the multiplier of values. You are the multiplier of culture, of credibility, of things that you would like to be seen always in an office, in an organization, in a community. So for you to be called a leader, you should be able not only, to tell where to go, what to do and all that, but you should be able to produce more of you, but not just more of you, but those better than you. I would always tell my mentees back here and back then that if they will tell me, Marco, I want to be you. Boss, I want to be you. No, 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 no. Instead, be better than me. You have had a good, view of what I do. Yeah, I may be good at these things now, but you also have seen yung mga bagay na I do not want you to copy from me. So be better than me. So again, to close it out, a leader for me is somebody who will be able to influence others to be the better versions of themselves or by that leader's version. I hope that
Yeah,
makes sense, but that's how
yeah,
I see
yeah.
it.
Actually, it do pretty much when we talk about leadership, it's actually creating more leaders and yeah, making them not like you, but guiding them to be successful on their own ways. Yeah. But the most challenging part of being a leader is the middle management or middle leadership, leading in the middle, as we call it. Many people often think that leadership role reserved to the top executive, right? But what does it mean to lead in the middle of an organization or leading in the middle?
So I see it as, in this way, I'm going to put it this way. Our heart is right here, not really the middle part of our body, right? But these middle leaders are the heart of any organization, but really in the middle, they are the ones that are, I would say, recipient of executive directives, the one to translate that and make it happen. At the same time, they are the ones na una makakarinig ng mga kwentuhan sa baba, ng mga grievances, if I may put it that way, and all that. And they are the ones that serves as the filter of, those things that sometimes or oftentimes, last to be heard.
Yep.
So it's really tough to be at that spot. But those, people that belong, so I myself would like to be called part of that middle team, are the ones really that makes or break an organization. So that's how I see that.
Yeah. We all went through that before we reach where we are right now. Definitely,
Exactly.
we reach that stage where we are all in the middle. And, being in the middle, you need to maintain the balance between working with the executive and working with your team also, right? So you need to maintain that balance. But on your end, on your experience, how do you maintain those balance?
That is a delicate balance, again to echo the word balance. It is very important for me that I'm, understanding what the executives, the powers that be, the faces of the company, the direction of that. I need to understand that. I need to be able to reflect on that, because I will not be able to execute that. My belief is that in order for me to explain something simply, I need to understand it fully. So the balance lies with me understanding and embracing the direction of the executive, of the senior management, so that I can simply, share that to the front lines. If I'm not able to achieve that balance of understanding fully, I will not be able to explain that simply. So again, to answer a question, I have to understand it. I need to embrace that in order for me to translate the direction into action.
Exactly. But being in the middle is hard because this is where all the challenges comes in, right? So on
That's
your
correct.
experience, what are those challenges that you experience being part of the middle management?
The most common challenge is being the, the harbinger of not so goodness. For example, you are the one that rally the troops. Sabi nila, you're the one to talk to them. You're the one to build the dreams and all that. Then as a team, you will have the goals, you will have this and that. And then lo and behold, there will be executive directives, there will be organizational directions that will at some point, unfortunately, will deviate from your vision. And so you have to go back to your team. Hey, talking to your top performers, sorry, medyo madidelay muna yung growth and all that. Sorry, hindi mo natin magagawa to. And the harder part is on how you'll be able to explain it in a way that it makes sense. Sincero, ha? Sincero, making sense, not, not simply you winging it, be able to making them to understand hindi ba kasi panahon, may ibang direction. And it's all for our good. It's how you make them understand that we have to trust the organizational directions. And that is
Agree.
very challenging. If you are in a point wherein, it requires maturity, is what I'm saying. Because if you will let your emotions get the better of you when facing the frontliners, the frontline teams, it may become not so good of a conversation because you may become the source of what ranting. You may become the source
Right.
of that the negativity when in fact you should not. So
Exactly.
that is a challenge that I normally see to those budding and emerging younger leaders.
But how do you think you can balance that?
Well, I always, get into a point of uh, ensuring that that the frontline teams that I'm communicating to should see it in a way that what's gonna be in it for them. There has to be that discussion of what's gonna be the intrinsic and extrinsic interest for them, so that they'll be able to understand and connect it. Okay, kaya pala ganito pala yung kukuha ko in the long run. It's not because I'm not able, we're not able to do it now. It doesn't mean it will not be done bukas or whatever. So the discussion must be from a standpoint that it goes beyond the now. So that's how I strike the balance on the the front line. And then on the executive front, it is my job, of course, to voice out,
Yeah.
those possible scenarios because I've seen that, because I'm the one experiencing that, hearing that. So I ought to let them know, okay, first I have to assure them that I'll be on board as soon as I understand things. And then it is my obligation to show some scenarios. Not that they did see that, but I'm just hoping that it is a validation of what they have already thought about. And it's important that I voice it out. So
Yeah.
that's the balance for me. Being, that good soldier, but not the good soldier lang, kung hindi, a good soldier that follows with understanding, with purpose. And then, of course, you do that, your team will feel that, and it's going to be relatively easier for them to adapt. At
And I
first,
like what you
man,
said. I like what you said when you mentioned that you look for the purpose or what's in it for your team so they better understand it, and that drives motivation for them also.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a big role that the middle management is really doing, right? And one of it involves culture. How do you think middle management affects culture, organizational culture?
Culture. So I would like to begin with a thought there. Culture is not the one that's written in the halls,
Yeah.
the walls. That it is the one that walks through the hall. So as that middle manager, you should be the one that multiplies it,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you want a culture that is so engaged, that is so positive and all that, you should be an embodiment of that. So you dapat mo nang makita.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy as saying. Culture is itinatanim bago anihin, kumbaga. So I would always tell my people that if you would like me to describe the kind of team that you have, the in the local team level, I would like you to tell me what's your culture first, and I'm gonna okay, maybe that is how really your team is. So your culture is the mirror, the facade of what kind of organization, a team, or segment or department that you are having.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important. As they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's important because it's the culture that will see you through, that will push you through.
Okay, good. Now, we are talking about culture. This is the next topic that will be deep diving. But what do you think is the role of culture in your leadership approach, based on your personal experience?
It is I would like to say the core of my uh, leadership principle. It is the culture, because if my culture of leadership isn't something that can be adopted, if it's something that cannot be embraced, then I wouldn't be able to lead through that culture. Therefore, I have to be reminded of what kind of culture I would like my organization to be known of, to live by. So it is what can we say? How can we say? And the oxygen
Mm-hmm.
of the organ. It is the heart that beats in my organizational uh, setup. If you put it that way, the culture is the heart of the organization, to my point of view.
And what steps do you take can middle management do to foster a positive culture within the team? Because we're in the
Well,
middle, right? The senior leadership team will have this directive to drive this culture. What do you think is the role of the middle management to drive positive culture within your team or foster a positive culture within their team?
well, we have to be ambassadors of it. We have to be the one that should model that. Uh, there may be a situation wherein we need to localize it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say a culture that is so HQ back in the Silicon Valley and not so centralized. Therefore, some of those may not be really
Applicable.
uh, applicable. So we have to localize it. And then that culture has to resonate, has to be aligned with our values. So on how me as a middle manager, me as somebody who leads middle managers, it's important that they have to see that culture in me first. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, culture multiplies. It has
Yeah.
to be multiplied by somebody that they look up to, that they work with. One thing that I do is that I do not ask anything that I will not be willing to do. Speaking of culture, so if culture is engaged, and if by means engaged being, for example, a simple example, being game, sumali sa mga sports, tas kumanta paminsan-minsan, then do it. Do
Mm-hmm.
it not because you have to, do it because you want to, because that is the kind of culture that you would like your team to manifest, being light, being well. So you have to walk through the halls of your offices with that kind of culture that exudes out of you.
Okay, good. Now, let's talk about credibility. Building credibility. Credibility is one crucial area when we talk about effective leadership, right? What are some key
Exactly.
factors do you think can contribute in building credibility as a middle manager? And maybe not just in OpenText, maybe in other organization also. Middle manager, usually these are the new managers coming in, right? So not all of them would have that experience. So what do you think are the key factors that contribute in building this credibility?
Credibility is earned. Let's begin with that. Credibility is
Mhm.
not something that you will say, I have it. It has to be seen in you, that you have built and that you have earned. Uh, for example, you are a new manager, and then you will come in having your patterns, your routines and all, having being consistent and all that. And in order for your people to see that it is something that will make good for them, you have to keep on doing that. Credibility is also consistency for me. It is the consistency of always doing what is right, right? So credibility is anonymous in that way, that it is something that drives your persona.
Mhm.
You may not be liked, you may not be popular, but if people sees you consistent, if people sees you always doing what needs to be done, then you're okay. And in fact, sometimes it is more important. There are situations wherein you would rather be seen as someone credible than someone so liked, right? So it is a lot heavier for me as a leader to have that credibility, because as a leader, we should have always that willingness to take the more difficult calls, the actions that nobody wants to take. And it
Yeah.
takes credibility to do that. If you are in a coaching session, for example, you are telling one of your low performers, giving him an advice that hindi mo dapat kasi ginawa, dapat ganito yung ginawa mo and all that. If you are not seen as somebody who is not doing the same, then you're not credible. Hindi maniniwala sa'yo. With credibility, it should be your badge to say, dahil ako ay may badge of credibility, then pwede kong sabihin sa'yo, pwede kitang turuan kung ano sa tingin ko yung mas makakabuti sa'yo. If you don't have that, people will not believe. You may be liked because of that culture, but if you are not credible to them, You will just be seen as somebody who brings the food, who brings the drinks, bring the team to team building and all that. But what elevates them through credibility, I think that's why it's so important to have that as well.
Yeah. So you're right. Credibility is built through experience also, right? It's not a one-day event that you are already credible. So it comes with experience, it comes in time. But building credibility will also have challenges, correct? Do you agree with that?
Exactly.
So let's talk about your experience. Are there any situation in the past where your credibility is a challenge, especially when you're working with above management and the team below you?
Yes. My credibility has been challenged, you know, quite a few times in my journey here, to where I am. Credibility is, let's put it in the context of performance.
Mhm.
Of course, performance is very important in our world. That is how you are praised. That is how you are ranked. That is how you will be deemed, whether you're going to be kicked out or what, performance. And so your performance, no matter how good that is, if that is not, grounded with credibility, then it's nothing. And so there is this one point wherein while the team is really doing so well, numbers and all that, satisfaction, net promoter scores, all the productivity and all that, and then all of those good things that you have been putting up, all of those good numbers that you're putting up, and then you slip just one area that makes it all credible, the data and all, then it will challenge whatever you have been doing for the last few years or so. It so happened that in that instance, there was an oversight of some sort on how we do things. I wouldn't say it's minor, I'd say it's significant.
Mhm.
And while I am not the one who has been at the forefront of it, really have done that, but since I am the leader, I'm the middle manager, therefore everything rolls up to me. And therefore the credibility of the team has been hit. And so I need to start building it again. And it's not easy. It's difficult actually because kahapon you were so doing this good, you're exceptional and all, you are high rank and all in terms of performance ladder, and then this thing happens, all of a sudden you would feel like simula na naman ako and all that, and it takes time, like what you've said, to earn it. And so luckily everybody has been given those chances of redemption, and we were successfully have achieved the redemption of rebuilding the credibility. Well, what I'm saying is that credibility always so fragile. Hindi naman ito isang bagay na pag nabasag wala na.
Yep.
Right? There will always be that chance naman for us to, okay, medyo na tapilok tayo dito, bangon na lang ulit. Medyo na tapa tayo dito, bangon na lang ulit. That's the beauty of what we do. We're
Right.
not being judged absolutely. But of course, that only applies to our space here in the professional space of things.
That's the beauty of working in this type of industry. You can
Exactly.
create some error at some point, but at least through those error we learn, right?
Of course, that's the biggest thing of it. Kumbaga yung nasukli mo, that will always be your battle scars. Kumbaga.
And that helps build you or help you become who you are later on. That builds you to
That's
be a
correct.
better leader.
That's correct. Because all of those struggles that I have had in the past are going to be my biggest testaments that I can share to the youngsters, kumbaga.
And that's why
And
you're
that gives me
here.
more credibility, right? That gives me more credibility because I can, speak in front of them. Huwag niyong gawin yan. Listen to me. Na-experience ko yan. So don't do it. I know, papunta pa lang kayo, pabalik na ako, kumbaga. So that's very apt. I just realized that's very apt.
Yeah. In your view, do you think transparency play a key role in establishing credibility within your teams?
Yes, but transparency is not absolute.
Yeah. Where do you
I
draw the
always,
line?
yes, I always believe that for things that the front lines must know, they will know.
Mhm,
For those things that was entrusted to me, I will keep that.
mhm.
And that is in itself is, one burden, not on the bad side, but one tough burden of a leader. Minsan sasabihin mo na lang, sana hindi ko na nalaman,
Mm,
right? And
correct.
then sometimes you feel that desire to unburden yourself of sabihin ko na kaya, ganon. But of course, during my younger years, I've experienced that and then how to let go of those info because sometimes it makes you empowered.
Mhm.
But transparency, if the transparency is required to be known, of course, we owe it to them. But it is also a part of our jobs as leaders to draw the line, as you have
Right.
mentioned. If it's explicitly mentioned, this is confidential, Marco, and this is only for your eyes only, then it has to be there. And that in itself builds credibility,
Mhm.
right? You don't want to be known as that someone na, "Naku, kaya pala kumalat kasi yan nasa."
Mhm.
You don't like it. You would like to be known as somebody with credibility that can keep things in order, especially information. Information is currency. Therefore, if it's entrusted to you, you have to, it's very sacred.
Protect it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's talk about courage. Courage is often cited as vital trait of leadership. Now, can you discuss what courage means in the context of you leading in the middle?
Like what I mentioned a while ago, leadership sometimes is leadership will require you to make the calls that nobody wants. So relating that to courage, you have to have the courage to be disliked. I guess there's a book like that. So in leadership, in being the middle, uh, being a member of the middle management, you always have to have the courage because in the middle segment of the organization, that is where all the battles are happening,
Right.
right? And so
Exactly.
if you're not courageous enough, first to have that face time with your senior leaders, represent your team, then you will be seen as okay, yes man ka na lang.
Mhm.
And then if you don't have the courage to tell somebody that on your frontline teams that medyo hindi maganda yung performance ng kumpanya, ganito, medyo magpapawas, medyo, mga those things, medyo papalitan natin yung proseso, then you may not be the one for the job.
Mhm.
Because courage in that line of work is something that you should always carry. You wouldn't know when you should have that difficult conversation. And therefore, you should be able to always, unpack it, your courage, like nasa bulsa mo lang, dapat lagi siyang big. If
Mhm.
you don't have that courage to be disliked, remember, leadership is not so comfortable, glamorous, position. It's not that. It is a position that calls for you to be, sorry for the term, but I normally use this. Um, you have to suck it up. For sure it'll be edited, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean there. So you should have that.
Correct. I totally agree also. That's one challenge of being in the middle. Courage talking to your leadership, courage facing your team, right? But
Two-bladed, yeah.
exactly. Now, how will you influence the there are people who you are trying to promote to a leadership or middle management role, but this sometimes these people won't have that courage to take on that role. There are some people like that I don't want to have that role. It will have more responsibility, it will have more problem on my end. So how do you manage or talk to this type of people?
Well, that is something of a preface to the notion that leadership is not for everyone, right? And leadership is not something that's going to be served to you in a silver
Yeah.
platter. No, you actually have to work hard to get that. Okay. And that alone is a precursor to your courage, right? Because um, nobody will want to become a leader if they don't have at least a basic concept of leadership. If I'm hearing that to somebody who I see would have a potential of
That
being a leader and all that, then it's a red flag. Because leadership, you have to want it. And then one more thing about that is that pag nakuha mo na yung leadership position, then it's not going to be in a way that, o ginusto mo yan, sa'yo na lahat to, panalo ka na dyan. No, instead, ginusto mo yan, panindigan mo. So, of course, I'm putting it in that context, but, just to qualify it, leadership is not that bad. It is actually something that is so fulfilling. But what I'm saying is that if you don't have the courage, you will not see the fulfillment in it. You have to have the courage in order for you to get past the rough spots in the leadership. And so pag nakita ko na, narinig ko na ganun ng attitude, and I really believe that this person can make it, I'm willing to go the full length, the long play. I will take him, her under my wing, immerse, tirelessly share things, show stuff and all that until, there will be a realization that being a leader, while it requires a lot, at the end of it, sa umpisa mo lang naman masasabing it requires a lot and it gives you less. No. Pagkatapos ng lahat ng yan, at the end of it, it's going to be a gargantuan kind of fulfillment. You just have to have the courage to go through those difficult spots for your journey. So your question, immersion, having the opportunity to show what leadership is all about.
and there's a lot of things that we can do to prepare that person, right? Before he takes on that role. Yeah.
Yes,
But as a
yes.
wrap up, we come to the top of the hour. What would be your key piece of advice to aspiring leaders to find themselves who finds themselves in the middle management?
Aspiring, those people that are aspiring to be at that, well, number one, I would I would encourage them first to understand the purpose. Build that purpose first. Why would you like to have that all of the headaches of managing 10, 15 people, two, three team leads? Well, why? You have to define your why, your purpose. And after having that compelling why, it's important to have a mentor. It is important to have somebody that will guide. It is
Mhm.
important to be to have that heart talk once in a while, and then ultimately have that assessment of where you are. Have that um, analysis of your progress, of your journey, and lastly, always believe that leadership, like learning, is a never ending journey. Always have to have that ability to to empty your pitcher and fill it again with knowledge. As you empty your pitcher by filling the other glasses, then it multiplies yourself. So to in
And you have more
summary,
things to fill in, right?
yeah,
New things
you
to
have to
fill
always
in
empty
your picture.
your cup. Not the cup, empty your pitcher na pala. Wag na lang yung cup.
Yeah. Thank you
So
so
find your
much, Mark.
purpose. I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah.
Find your purpose. Find a mentor, and live your purpose. It is my advice to those
Okay.
aspiring.
Thank you so much for that. Is there anything you want to promote or share to our viewers? Are there any events where we can see you?
Well, no, I'm a very private person. I would like to say this one instead of inviting people first, I would like to thank you for having me here once again. Apologize. This should have happened last week, but I had an emergency. Thank you
No
for
worries.
for accommodating that. But I am active in LinkedIn.
Remember, learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Again, my name is Rich, and this is The Leader's Edge.